Inside the life of the King of Thailand. If you search for the richest king in the world on the internet, in answer you will get the King of Thailand. But the question is, who is the King of Thailand? And how rich is he that he got the title of richest king, even surpassing royalty in the Arab world? To answer all these questions, we brought you a video in which we will dive into the lavish life of the King of Thailand, Maha vajiralongkorn. Everything will be revealed here today, from his lavish places worth billions of dollars to the 38 jets he owns. But before going there, let us look into the early life of the King of Thailand, Maha vajiralongkorn. The early life of Rama X. On the 22nd of January 1952, Prince Maha vajiralongkorn, also known as Rama X, was born to King Bhumibol Adulyadej and Queen Sirikit Kitayakara. Rama X was the only son of the king and queen, so he naturally got more attention from the couple. The king wanted to provide the best education for the prince, so after completing his kindergarten in Thailand, the king decided to send his son Rama X to be educated at independent schools in the United Kingdom. First at a prep school, Kingsmead, Seaford, and then at Millfield School in Somerset, where he completed his secondary education in July 1970. In 1972, the prince enrolled at the Royal Military College, Duntroon in Canberra, Australia. His education at Duntroon was divided into two parts: military training by the Australian Army and a bachelor's degree course under the University of New South Wales. He graduated in 1976 as a new corporal with a liberal arts degree. But before he graduated, he was crowned as Crown Prince on the 28th of December 1972 in the Royal Palace of Ananta Samakome Throne Hall. At the time of coronation, he was just 20 years of age, making him the third crown prince of the Chakri dynasty. The whole country was involved in it. After graduation, the Prince of Thailand joined the Royal Thai Army, where he served as a staff officer in the Directorate of Army Intelligence. He also attended the Command and General Staff College in 1977. After the death of the king Bhumibol Adulyadej on the 13th of October 2016, Prince Rama X became the acting king of Thailand for 3 years. After 3 years, on the 4th of May 2019, Prince Rama X was officially crowned as King of Thailand at the age of 64. And the ceremony of coronation took place for 3 days. Celebration lasted for days. According to Forbes, the net worth of Maha vajiralongkorn is around $42 billion. Now you might be wondering where he spent all of this money, and the answer is a big chunk of it is spent on palaces. Now let's see the palaces which the king owns. The King of Thailand is the richest monarch in the world, and surely he can't just have one palace. The king owns around 19 palaces. Not all of them are used by him, but when money is not an issue, surely you can keep 19 palaces. Among these 19 palaces, we will talk about one of the most beautiful and important places of them: the Dusit Palace. The Dusit Palace is the most expensive palace King Rama X owns. It is a compound of royal residences in Bangkok, Thailand, constructed over a large area north of Ratanakosin Island between 1897 and 1901 by King Chulalongkorn. This is not like any other palace you see. This palace is a collection of 13 residences where kings and members of the royal family live. Among all the residences King Rama X lives in, this residence, called the Amporn Satan Residential Hall, is a 3-story building in the style of a European country villa. Most of the interior was decorated with details of flowers and foliage and stucco. The story of the Dusit Palace is also interesting. King Chulalongkorn, who built this palace, went to Europe in 1890 and got inspired by its architecture, so he wanted to build a big royal palace for himself. The king started acquiring farmlands around it. Now this palace covers about 64,749 square meters. The palace became the focal point of the city, as well as a seat of the royal government and the home of the king and his court. The price of this palace is unknown, but some estimate it to go over a couple of $1 billion. Now let's see how many jets the king owns. Being a pilot, the king holds a special love for the jets and heliports. And it is for this love that the king owns 38 jets. You heard that right, 38. In this extensive collection of jets, 3 of them are Airbuses worth $90 million each, 3 Sukhoi Superjets which are made in Russia that cost $50 million each, and 4 Northrop F-52 light fighter jets worth $2 million each. He also owns 21 helicopters, each costing about $1.9 million, and the list goes on. These are kept for the king and his family for their travel, and coming to maintaining these air vehicles, then the number are not available, but we are sure the numbers will go into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Cars owned by the king. Like jets, the king also loves cars, and he has a good collection of cars. In this lavish collection, he owns a Maybach 62 limousine worth $7 million, a Mercedes S-Class worth $1,110,000, a Rolls-Royce Corniche worth $3,400,000, and a Cadillac DTS worth $400,000. Other properties owned by the king. The Crown Property of the Bureau is also known as CPB, which comes directly under the king. It is a legal administrative agency responsible for managing the property of the King of Thailand. The CPB owns about 6,560 hectares of land throughout the country. Through the CPB, the king owns around 10 kilometers square or 3,320 acres of land only in central Bangkok. And yet not all properties in the city center have been made public. And on this land, various businesses operated like malls, shopping complexes, among other things. And the estimated worth of Bangkok Holding itself is somewhere around 31 billion US dollars. Also, a lot of the king's property is rented. In 2010, the total income generated from the rented property was about $80 million. And this figure is only from some of the prime real estate like Central World, a shopping mall, and the nearby Four Seasons Hotel. In total, the CPB says it has 40,000 rental contracts, of which 17,000 are itself in Bangkok. Maintaining all this lavish property and buying those jets is expensive, but where does the king get his money? Well, the answer is the companies the king owns and the royal expense. The king owns many companies, but one of the main companies he owns is Siam Commercial Bank, which is a bank in Thailand, and he has a 23% stake in it. He also owns Siam Cement PCL, and in this case, he has 34% of the stake, which generates a huge amount of $200 million per year for the king in the form of a dividend. Apart from these companies, when it comes to the expenses of the royal family, the government provides an annual fund of around $170 million, and this comes from the public fund. And these $170 million cover the salaries of staff working in the Bureau of the Royal Household and other palace offices, plus security provided for the royal family by police and armed forces. Apart from having a huge pile of wealth, the king also contributes as a philanthropist. The philanthropic work. The king has established 21 Crown Prince hospitals throughout the country to serve as medical and healthcare centers for people living in remote areas. The king has also worked to improve the agriculture sector. He developed the Mobile Agricultural Clinic project, which provides quick services to farmers to enhance efficiency in farm production by solving their problems. He has also worked for the education of Thai students by making specialties with more than 40 education institutions to improve children's access to quality learning. It is estimated that over the past 35 years, at least 2,100,000 degrees have been handed out by the Crown Prince to the graduates. Besides this, every year he donates $1.1 million to a scholarship fund benefiting these students. Thanks for watching the video. Comment down below what you think. Also press the subscribe button and bell icon for regular updates.